Chinatown is a neighborhood in transition. You have just explored present-day Chinatown as a character other than yourself. Now it's time to be yourself again and explore the Chinatown that might be. We have modeled 3 possible scenarios for the neighborhood's growth. One scenario will have a residential focus. The second is a commercial focus. And the third is a mix of housing and businesses. We invite you to enter one of the scenarios and tell us what you think. As you walk through this hypothetical world, you will encounter 9 large floating question marks. Gain points by finding them and answering the questions they contain. Your answers to these questions are crucial to the Chinatown Master Plan 2010 Committee, which will read and consider your answers. As you walk around looking for these question marks, remember to take in your surroundings and get a sense of how these scenarios might affect you as a pedestrian. Now let's get started. The area we will be exploring is bounded by the turnpike to the north, Charlotte Avenue to the west, East Berkeley Street to the south, and Albany Streets to the east. Most of the time, we arrive in this area by walking south across the turnpike on Harrison, Washington, or Charlotte Avenues. Currently, this area is home to both large and small employers. Together, these and other businesses employ approximately 2,300 people. You will also see a fair amount of residences as well. South Curve Manor is home to about 100 seniors. More recent developments, including the lofts at E. Berkeley, the Waterford Place Apartments, and 60 to 80 Harold Street also provides housing. To accommodate the employees, commercial traffic, and residents, there are also over 1,500 parking spaces. In fact, much of the land is used for surface parking and parking garages. There are no public green spaces such as parks, gardens, or even play areas. This section of Boston is very important for several reasons. First, as one of the last remaining underdeveloped sections for central Boston, how these blocks develop is important to the future of Chinatown and other neighborhoods, especially the South End. As a transitional neighborhood between Chinatown and the South End, future development patterns will impact both neighborhoods. Each of the 3 possible scenarios presented here offered a different visions for how new development could knit together these neighborhoods. You will notice that many of the buildings that currently exist would remain in place under all 3 scenarios, including the Trinity Church, the Teradyne buildings, Ming's, the South Curve Manor, and more.
First, let's take a look at the scenario that focuses on residential development. Over 400 housing units, 300 institutional living spaces, 900 jobs, 900 parking spaces, and 1 acre of green space would compose the residential scenario. In this scenario, additional institutional housing, such as assisted living for seniors or even university dorms, connects the planning area to central Chinatown, replacing the Boston Herald Building and C-Mart. Moving south, a mix of affordable housing and market-rate housing replaces surface parking lots. And dedicated art studios and galleries stand where parking once was. In the southeast corner of the area, a large hotel, which provides about over 100 jobs, is built to take the place of a large parking lot. Green space and housing with street-level shops replace the old gray bar electric building. Compared to the 2 other worlds you're about to see, the residential scenario provides the most affordable housing and open space. It also creates spaces for artists to live and work, and creates a strong link between Chinatown and the South End. On the other hand, it produces relatively few jobs, provides little parking, and lacks the shops and restaurants that residents and tourists enjoy.
Next, let's see what the planning area would look like if business were the key focus. Under this scenario, 3 large office buildings and space for research and technology companies replace the Boston Herald building and taxi offices along Albany Street. More offices and green space replace Graybar Electric. Like the residential scenario, this commercial scenario includes a large hotel and art spaces. To the western edge of the planning area, dorms and senior housing sit behind Trinity Church, while a mix of affordable and luxury housing are placed along Shawmut. This scenario provides about 250 housing units, 150 institutional living spaces, 6,200 jobs, 1,800 parking spaces, and 0.9 acres of green space. Compared to the other 2 possible worlds, this one creates the most jobs and parking, and even creates a few opportunities for shops and restaurants to open on the ground floor of these large buildings. It also preserves some land to be used as green space. However, transforming so much space into office and research buildings provides very little housing and contrasts with the traditional design of Chinatown. Some would say that the buildings would feel too large or that the streets wouldn't look particularly interesting if this type of development were to happen.
Finally, let's visit our third scenario, which mixes both housing and commercial development. Under this scenario, technology and research buildings line Albany Street with office spaces and parking on Harrison. The old Graybar Electric building would become office space, dorms, and a small green space. Assisted living space would replace C-Mart, and a mix of affordable and luxury housing would line Shawmut. This scenario would provide 320 housing units of housing, 100 institutional living spaces, 4,500 jobs, 1,700 parking spaces, and 1/5 of an acre of green space. Compared to the 2 other scenarios we've already seen, this world does a great job providing shops, restaurants, and interesting walkable streets. Development under this scenario is most like what we currently see in Chinatown today: shops at the street level and apartment housing above them. Critics of this type of development would point out that the mixed-use scenario contains very little green space and does not provide any working or living space for artists. It also gives us some, but less housing than the residential scenario and produces fewer jobs than the commercial scenario. You will visit the world that best lines up with your expressed values or the values of the room if you're playing with a group. Find all the question marks and answer the questions frankly and honestly. Your feedback is important for the planners and your neighbors as we all explore the future of Chinatown.